Imagine believing, I mean really truly believing, not just as a fleeting thought, but as a core truth, that you're dead. That your body, right now, isn't actually living. That's the chilling secret of what we're diving into today, Cotard's delusion.
Right. It's also known as walking corpse syndrome, which is pretty unsettling in itself. It's this incredibly rare, very strange psychiatric condition. Basically, people experiencing it have this absolutely solid conviction, like zero doubt that they're deceased, or maybe they think they're in the process of dying, or they've just, ceased to exist entirely. Some even get this terrifying belief that their internal organs are, well, rotting away. All while to everyone else, they're obviously alive.
Yeah, it's that literalness of it that really, it just gets under your skin, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not like feeling depressed or lifeless in a metaphorical way. It's a concrete certainty. I don't exist. And sometimes, which is just heartbreaking, this feeling extends outwards. They think the whole world is gone too.
Yes, in some cases, the delusion can encompass the external world, a belief that everything has ceased to exist along with them.
We're really looking at a profoundly disturbing reality for these individuals.
Absolutely. The kind of dark nihilism at the core of Cotard's is just startling. Think about it. If you genuinely believe you're dead, why would you eat or drink? And tragically, this isn't theoretical. It's a real consequence. People with Cotard's might just stop taking in any food or water.
Because, in their mind.
Because a corpse doesn't need sustenance, it leads to, obviously, severe physical health problems.
And it's more than just not eating, right? It sounds like a complete break with their own body.
Precisely. Things like personal hygiene, they can become totally irrelevant. Because, from their perspective, why wash a decaying body? We even have these really disturbing accounts where people describe smelling their own rotting flesh.
Oh, wow.
Or feeling like their body is completely frozen stiff, just lifeless.
It's almost impossible to really wrap your head around what that internal experience must be like. You mentioned some quotes earlier. Could you share one to give us a clearer sense of their perspective?
Yeah, hearing it in their own words really hits home. One person, they stated, "I'm not alive with this illness. I went to bed fine and got up ill, frozen stiff. I have no appetite."
Just like that.
Matter of fact, completely. And another really striking case, a patient was complaining that she was dead, it smelled like rotting flesh, and wanted to be taken to a morgue so that she could be with dead people.
To be with.
Oh.
So these aren't just like abstract ideas. This is their perceived reality.
Exactly. It's a deeply, deeply ingrained reality for them, even though it's factually incorrect.
And the result of believing this, they can be devastating, even beyond not eating or washing.
Indeed. It might seem strange, but self-harm can actually happen. But often the motivation isn't, a desire to actually die, because in their mind, they're already dead.
Right.
So instead, these acts might be these desperate attempts to somehow, prove their non-existence, or maybe just escape the agony of being, a conscious corpse. It's a terrible paradox.
That paints such a bleak, unsettling picture. It's hard to fathom that inner turmoil. Now, this condition, it doesn't just appear out of nowhere, usually. You said it often comes alongside other issues.
That's a really crucial point. Cotard's delusion rarely exists in isolation. There's a very, very strong connection with severe depression. Some studies suggest it's present in up to 89% of cases.
89%? That's huge.
It is, and it's also linked with other major psychiatric disorders. Think schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and beyond that, neurological conditions too. Things like brain tumors, brain infections, dementia, epilepsy, stroke, even traumatic brain injury.
So it's like this complex puzzle, this web of factors that scientists are trying to piece together. And brain imaging, that's giving us some clues, isn't it?
Exactly. Techniques like PET scans, SPECT scans, they're giving us valuable, though sometimes limited, glimpses into brain changes that might be involved. Because Cotard's is so rare, the findings aren't always perfectly consistent across studies,
Sure, that makes sense.
But certain brain regions do keep popping up as potentially significant.
Okay, so which areas are we talking about? Where are they seeing these differences?
Well, several key networks seem implicated. We see mention of frontoparietal circuits. That's networks kind of connecting the front and sides of the brain, involved in lots of thinking processes. Also, the default mode network, which we should definitely talk more about.
Okay.
And then there's the insular cortex. That's really important for interoception, our sense of what's going on inside our body, and also our emotional awareness. And finally, the prefrontal cortex, right at the very front. Crucial for reasoning, for reality testing. That seems involved too.
So it sounds like maybe a disruption in how we sense ourselves, our internal state,
Yeah.
maybe how we judge what's real.
Right.
That could be key.
That fits quite well with a broader idea called the two-factor theory of delusions. It seems pretty relevant here. The idea is the first factor could be a problem, say, with the insula.
Right.
If that area isn't working right, maybe you don't get those normal, subtle internal bodily feelings or the emotional resonance that usually comes with them.
Probably a disconnect.
Yeah, a kind of fundamental feeling of detachment, maybe unreality about your own physical self.
Okay, so you have this strange lack of internal feeling, this void almost. How does that become I am dead? What's the second factor?
Well, that's where the prefrontal cortex might come in. If there's also some impairment there, the part of your brain responsible for logical reasoning and dismissing bizarre ideas isn't working properly. So it can't effectively challenge that strange interpretation of the missing sensations. It can't say, hang on, this feeling is weird, but I'm clearly not dead. It just accepts the delusion.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like getting faulty data, and then the quality control system is also offline.
Pretty much, yeah. A breakdown in both signal and interpretation.
You also mentioned some specific research linked to anti-NMDIR encephalitis. What did that show?
Yes, that's another really fascinating angle. Anti-NMDR encephalitis is this autoimmune condition affecting the brain. And in patients who developed Cotard's after having it, studies found significant hypometabolism, basically, reduced brain activity, particularly in posterior or back regions of the brain.
Which specific parts at the back?
We're talking about the cingulate cortex and also the medial or inner parts of the parietal and occipital lobes. And what's quite interesting is that this reduced activity was often more significant on the right side of the brain.
Okay, and why are those back regions important for understanding Cotard's? What do they normally do?
Well, these areas, especially the posterior cingulate and another bit called the precuneus, they're major hubs in that default mode network we mentioned earlier.
Ah, the DMN again.
Exactly. This network is buzzing when we're, thinking about ourselves, reflecting, retrieving personal memories, imagining our future. It's also critical for integrating all the signals from our body and essentially creating that continuous sense of me, or sense of self over time.
So reduced activity there.
Yeah.
That suggests a really fundamental breakdown in how the brain constructs our very sense of being.
I think that's a fair way to put it. It really hammers home the idea that feeling alive, feeling like you exist, isn't just a given. It's an active construction by the brain.
Wow.
And Cotard's is the stark example of what happens when that intricate neural process goes wrong. It can lead to rejecting the most basic reality we know, our own existence.
It forces you to think differently about reality itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That it's maybe more constructed than we assume.
Very much so. What we perceive, including ourselves, seems to be a product of brain activity, not just a passive reflection of the world out there.
And this default mode network seems absolutely central to that construction of me.
It really does. As I said, it's active during introspection, memory, self-thought. So one leading idea is that if this network, the machinery that builds the story of me, malfunctions severely enough, the brain might just conclude that the self it's supposed to be representing, well, isn't there anymore. It doesn't exist.
And again, not just feeling empty, but a solid conviction of non-existence.
A profound, unshakable conviction. It's not metaphorical, it's perceived fact for the person experiencing it.
It just completely challenges our basic ideas of life and death. The brain convincing a living person they're a corpse. It's mind-boggling.
It truly underscores how fragile our perceived reality might be. Our own existence, which we take completely for granted, seems to depend on this fine-tuned neural ballet. The brain isn't just telling you about the world, it's fundamentally telling you that you are. It creates the very sense of being.
It's profound and, like we said at the start, actually quite terrifying to think about.
It certainly is. A real window into the deep connection between brain function and our most basic sense of reality.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the strange world of Cotard's delusion, maybe leave you with this thought to ponder. What if that core neural signal, the one that constantly affirms, I am alive, just failed? What if your brain's ability to register its own existence faltered, leaving you with the absolute certainty that you're just a walking corpse, a ghost in your own machine? It really makes you appreciate the incredible and perhaps fragile job your brain does every single second, just constructing the basic reality of you.